Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today we're going to be doing the Finish the Book tag. I'll leave the original creator of this tag linked down below in the description, but I thought this would be a really fun, quick, chatty video. I'm really interested in people's reading habits. Not only the habits that we have surrounding literally sitting down and reading, but all of the kind of ritual that exists around it, and particularly how those habits are impacted when you are someone that creates content around your reading. I certainly have lots of habits and quirks that I have around my reading routines that I really don't think I would have if I hadn't been creating videos for as long as I have been. And I've spoken about some of these habits before, but today we're specifically going to be talking about those habits that exist when you finish a book. So the first question is, do you keep a record of all of the books that you've read? And the answer is yes, in multiple ways. But I can be pretty delayed in keeping all of these things up to date. So there's 3 different places that I record all of my reading. I have a Google Sheet, which is basically kind of like my reading master grid. It has all of the books that I have hauled, what different genres they are, what different age categories they are, and it also has all of the books that I have read in a particular year. So it's really up to date for the past couple years. I'm still in the process of kind of backdating a lot of the historical data that I need to put on that master sheet. But yeah, it has all of the books that I have hauled, whether I have read them or they're still unread. It has all of the books that I've read listed. They are 2 separate lists. That is kind of the master sheet that has everything and all of the stats and different stuff, and I'll come on to that in a minute. I then also have a Storygraph page. I don't really use Storygraph as any kind of social network type of thing. It really is just a database for me, so I will update a book when I've read it. I have a bunch of different shelves, so for different genres, whether I have a book physically, whether it's physically and I have read it already or it's unread, there's a bunch of different shelves for all of the different things. It doesn't go into absolutely every different category, but kind of the ones that I feel like are most useful for me. So I have a section for young adult books, children's books, books that I have from work. I have Irish books, which is really useful around the Irish Readathon, poetry, non-fiction. In the past year or so, when I've been really getting into romance fiction, I added that as a specific category I look at. So when I finished a book, that will get updated. It would make my life a lot easier if I just immediately updated both of those things when I finish a book, but typically it tends to be maybe at the end of the month, I will do a big update to both of them with my reading for that month. And then the final thing I have is a notebook. I've had this notebook for quite a few years now, and there's no kind of additional information to the books in this. I just record it with the title of the book I read in a specific month within a specific year. It is literally just a big list of books that I have read. And realistically, I'm probably updating this once a quarter to every 6 months. So all of these things have slightly different functions. Storygraph is purely just a database for me. The spreadsheet I actively use a lot as a reference point for my reading and what books I've got on my shelves. And then the notebook doesn't have a function per se, but I think it's going to be one of those things that I'm going to love having in decades to come. This record of basically everything I've read in my adult life. And the next question is, what stats do you record? So all of the stats get recorded on the spreadsheet, and there's a few different things I look at. So the year a book was published in, how many pages it was, whether it was a book I acquired in the same year that I read it, or if it was, for want of a better word, a backlist book. I record any information I know about the author's race or the author's sexuality, what genre it was, what age group it was for. I also record who it was published by. I used to be way more into my stats when it came to my reading than I am at the minute. If you go back a few years, I had certain goals around, for example, reading a certain amount of non-fiction books in a year, or a certain percentage of my reading would be a particular genre or category or whatever. I don't really do that anymore, but it's interesting to have the data. The next question is, do you give star ratings? And I do, but I don't really tell anyone about them. So in my reviews on YouTube, I don't give star ratings. I just kind of talk to you about the books. On my spreadsheet, I do put a star rating, but it's a really imprecise science for me. Like, some people have proper kind of metrics that they measure a star rating by. I'm really just going off vibes. And actually, a huge amount of what goes into a 5-star rating for me really is vibes. It's kind of this physical and emotional response that I have to a book. Like, for something to be a 5 stars, I really need to feel a level of connection to it, which I don't think can really be measured on quite a strict metric. There's something really special about a 5-star book for me. So if I was to give something 4 stars, that's a really good rating, like really, really good. It was just didn't have that exact kind of secret sauce that I'm looking for a 5-star read. And then that means the 3-star read is also like very, very good. When it gets down to 2 and 1 stars, 2 for me is like not great. And generally for me to give something 1 star, which is really rare, because chances are if I was reading something and I thought it was really bad, I probably wouldn't finish it. But if I give something a 1 star, that's really bad. We've kind of touched on this next question already, which is, do you review books? The only reviewing I do is in my wrap-ups. So at the end of the month, and I know people feel like different ways about the wrap-up format. The way I see my booktube channel now is basically like a bookish diary for myself. I really like wrap-ups, and I also really like looking back on my own wrap-ups because it really grounds me in a sense of place of where I was when I was reading those books, and I can remember what my life was like when I was reading certain books. It's just a really great way for me to kind of look back on my own life through the lens of my reading. So I find the wrap-up format really, really great for that. So they're not hugely lengthy reviews. I am aware that typically if you do a full book review on a book, it's going to get more views because people are actively kind of searching for full reviews of that book, and they will find it for a much kind of longer tail of time than you have with just a monthly wrap-up where you might be reviewing like several books. But for me, I just really love the monthly wrap-up format as just like a bit of a check-in with the creators that I enjoy watching the most, but as I said, also a reference for myself. So typically my reviews are like less than 5 minutes, and I don't do written reviews anywhere. It is all here. The next question is, where do you put your finished books? So I have this book trolley that I have had for a few years now. I think I got it in the midst of one of the lockdowns. Now at the minute it holds a lot of my Penguin English Library books, but on the top shelf, this is where I put the books that I have finished reading in a particular month. So as soon as I finished reading a book, it goes on the top shelf of this trolley, ready and waiting for me to review in a monthly wrap-up and to take a photo for my Bookstagram account. This is a part of my reading ritual that I really enjoy. I really love seeing it kind of stack up throughout the month. Like, I love the ritual of finishing a book, going and putting it on the top shelf of the trolley and just seeing that grow throughout the month. I find that really, really satisfying. And just from an organizational point of view, it is really useful as well. It means when it comes to the end of the month and me creating content around the books I've read, they are all right there. And once I have created that content, they then get reshelved onto the main shelves, unless it's a book that I don't want to keep, in which case it gets unhauled. And if I'm being honest, kind of means that it sits on one of our dining table chairs for quite a while until I get around to unhauling it. The next question is, how do you pick your next read? This is another one where there's no real kind of metric or exact science to it. It is just kind of going off vibes and what I feel like reading at a particular time. I do try and kind of have a mix of different things, in the sense that I probably don't go from one romance book straight into another. I probably don't go straight from one young adult book into another. It can just be kind of me standing in front of my shelves and picking one out. There are a few other things that go into it. So for instance, I have been consuming a lot of books via audiobook that I get from my local library. I've been using that as a way of getting through my physical TBR while also utilizing audiobooks. So the availability of books through my library is a factor in that. But my library is really good. Like, there's normally several books that I would like to read that I have on my shelves that I want to listen through audiobook available at any given time. So again, it's just kind of vibes. And the final question is, do you have any rituals that you do when you've finished a book? And to be honest, I don't think I've got anything additional to what we've already kind of chatted about, and like recording the different stats, etc., reshelving them. I don't think I have any other rituals that I do. I'd be really intrigued if anyone else has any other stuff that they do. Please do leave me a comment down below and let me know if there's anything I haven't spoken about that you do with your reading, because I'm just really intrigued. Like, I don't even know what else I would do. That's the end of the tag, a pretty chatty one. I'm not going to tag anyone specifically, but if you would like to do this tag and you are looking for an excuse, consider this me tagging you. If you don't have anything specific to say, but you want to let me know that you are here, leave me the stack of books emoji. And then that is it for me today. I hope you're doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.